Welcome to episode 2 of my Fairly Often podcast. Today's episode is based on security needs. So, thank you everyone for coming. I wanted to talk about safety and security needs in this episode of the podcast. We're moving up Maslow's hierarchy. So based on yesterday's episode, we did the introduction and explained how the weeks are gonna go. So today I'm just gonna jump right into lesson plan, so that we don't really waste any time, because why? So today we're gonna talk about safety needs. So safety needs in general are going to be like security of body, of employment, resources, of morality, of family, and of health. So safety needs falls into a category of things known as deficiency needs. So safety and security needs are a deficiency. So it's something that you are lacking. So in regards to deficiency needs, so as soon as your food, your sleep, your health, sex, and roof over your head, the next thing that people move toward is the ability to sustain those and to keep their safety and security needs fulfilled. So this is one of the things that people struggle with most often, because although getting a job or getting a house or finding a sexual mate is hard in itself, maintaining those and sustaining the relationships that you have or the status that you have is a core need, and it's one of the hardest things to do, because once you meet the deficiency needs, you move on to different needs. So the first thing that I wanted to stress upon you is that basic human needs can be fulfilled only by and through other human beings, i.e. society. So basic human needs, so security is a basic human need, and that cannot be fulfilled by the individual alone. So self-actualization is an individualistic intrinsic value. So that can be achieved by you, through you. But safety and security is a basic need, and that comes from society. So unlike growth needs, so like self-actualization and confidence and respect, needs toward the top, security needs can only be met through relying on society. Once this need is met, individuals can move toward working on growth needs like self-actualization. So if your security needs are not met, if you're not working with society and working through society to meet your needs, you're not ever going to be able to become self-actualized. So self-actualized people are considered happy people. Self-actualized people move outward from figuring out who they are, figuring out their goals in life, and then start to help general society at greater lengths. So self-actualized people are beneficial for society. People who focus on themselves to figure out who they are and to become fulfilled people become beneficial people for society. Because if you never become self-actualized, you're still trying to fulfill your basic needs. And today we'll get into why fulfilling basic needs and being stuck there is really harmful for you, for your body, for your mental health, and why it's harmful for society overall. But in general, you can just look at the idea that people are inherently good, and in that sense, they try to, once they are fulfilled, they try to help other people become fulfilled. Because they say, like, once you have food, once you have shelter, once you can keep your food, once you can keep your shelter, once you're respected and admired by people and have a place in society, and feel like you're accomplishing your life goal, then you want that type of happiness for other people. And it's a journey. It's really hard to get to. It's not something like you can just drop it in someone's lap. You can't give it as a gift. It's a thing that people have to work on. And because people who are self-actualized know the benefit of that and know how hard it is to get there, they very much want that for other people. So don't think that working on yourself, meeting your basic needs, and then moving on to a part of self-actualization is selfish. It may seem selfish, but it's really beneficial for the greater society. Excuse me. Individuals act selfishly when basic human needs drive them. Why? Because basic needs stem from deficiency, from a feeling of lack, from a fear of not having or being enough. These needs stem from a prevailing sense of separation, and they tend to trigger the fight or flight mechanism in our brains. And when this happens, we assess situations from our more advanced prefrontal cortex, because the primitive brain center is in control. Once individuals meet their basic needs, the fears that drive these needs fall away. Individuals can then relax into themselves. So when you're trying to meet a basic need, your fight or flight reflex kicks in. Emotional centers activate so that you can have a sense of change and doing something. So when you're trying to meet a basic need, your amygdala fires up, and you are having the inability to process the portion of your brain that has logical and cognitive processing. So the only things that your brain is processing is immediate basic instincts. And that's really hard on the human body. Like, to always be in a sense of fight or flight causes anxiety. And extended anxiety is terrible. It's terrible for the human being. So it causes central nervous system issues, it causes respiratory issues, it causes digestive issues. In general, anxiety is one of the hardest things that a person can put their body through, and anxiety comes a lot from people's basic needs not being met, their deficiency needs. So when you don't have shelter, when you don't have sex, when you don't have food, when you don't have the ability to financially provide for yourself, your brain is sending anxiety signals so that you have a fight or flight sense, so that you can then provide your basic needs. That's how evolution has happened, and people have gotten to this place where we are now. Like I said yesterday in the introduction video, author Mark Manson has posited that complete and total 100% happiness does not cause for a good society or benefit a human being in any way, because then you don't have any fight or flight senses. Although immediate anxiety can help a person, it can actually strengthen your immune system. It can increase focus and push down like core needs. Like if you have anxiety, you can go without eating for a short period of time, and it's not harmful to your body in the way that if you continue to have anxiety, that will start to deplete your resources almost completely. So a lot of people are staying in the base needs being unfulfilled, because although in today's society you have to have a job, you have to have a at least in some sense a career field that pays for your livelihood and what we believe is sustainable and upward movement. Like most people's job is supposed to help them to get to a better part in life, or at least sustain them so that they don't go downward in the social hierarchy. The issue with jobs today is that people are unfulfilled, and they are taking up career paths or job placements that do not help fulfill them as a human being. They do not help them see their actual true path and the thing that they're supposed to accomplish in life. People, in order to become self-actualized, need to become an expert on something. They need to become engrossed in an activity that makes them focus and concentrate their livelihood and their efforts onto a thing that helps fulfill them. So when people find out their greater goal in life, when they find out their purpose, people become fulfilled because they're able to put themselves on a trajectory and a path of meeting your basic needs, of focusing on something that fulfills them. People go into the career field now with only the desire to pay bills and to put food on the table, without the cognitive processing that the time that you have in your life, the hours that you have in the day, you do not get back. And from onset, your whole goal as a human being is to be self-actualized. Your whole goal as a human being is to reach your purpose in life. We wake up every day and you're supposed to have a forefront of understanding that you have something that you are supposed to accomplish in this world. And if not, then your life goal is to be a worker bee and to die without purpose. And that is not the animalistic existence of human beings. Most animals only have to worry about survival. They have to worry about the deficiency needs of food, of protection, of having a safe place to live. Human beings are a higher processing animal and have the necessity to have purpose in life. There are things that are innate to almost all human beings: love, respect, attention, safety, freedom. These things are things that we call inalienable rights, and things that human beings need to have good lives. So if you're not waking up every day like, what is my purpose in life, and striving to work to get there, there's going to be a lack of happiness in your ability to honestly invest in time, honestly invest in activities, honestly invest in things with the semblance that this is fulfilling your life goal. And then we just have a bunch of people walking around who aren't fulfilling their life goal. So I found one quote online that said, if you're investing on increasing effort in your growth, you probably feel more satisfied. And this satisfaction will likely fuel your growth efforts further. So if you're investing on increasing effort in your growth, so even if you're not growing, even if you're not 100% like seeing the progress, if you're investing effort in increasing your growth, if you're putting those steps in every day to give back to yourself more than you're giving back to anyone else, then you're gonna feel some type of satisfaction. People feel more gratification or sense of lasting happiness when they're pursuing growth by playing to their natural strengths. Right? So if something is not a natural strength of yours, if something is not innate to who you are as a human being, and you're trying to put yourself into a box that somebody else picked for you, or something that you feel like this is going to be better, like some people STEM jobs like science, technology, engineering, mathematics, like those jobs are fulfilling for them. Some people, those jobs are not to their strengths. They're on the more creative side, and if they go into the STEM job, it's like you're going to be investing time into something that, although you might cognitively forefrontally believe that is going to be good for you, if it's not your natural strength, then there might be not as much gratification as if you're investing in growing your natural strengths and abilities. So in order to talk about fight or flight and anxiety and the things that happen to people when needs are not met, specifically deficiency needs, we have to understand that if a person doesn't feel safe in their environment, then they will have an attempt to seek out safety. So if they feel unsafe, they're gonna try to seek out safety. And most of our decisions and actions are based on sustaining or improving our circumstances. So first and foremost, if there's something unsafe in your environment, anything, and we'll get into this right after this point, but if anything is unsafe in your environment, then you seek out changing that immediately. And once you get to a safe environment, you try to do things to sustain that environment or to grow from there. So I want to reiterate, when we're talking about safety, safety does not necessarily mean a threat to your physical harm. It doesn't mean an enemy or an attacker or anything like that. When we're talking about safety, we're talking about sustainability. When we're talking about safety, we're talking about the person's ability to have some semblance of control over their environment. When we're talking about safety, we're talking about a person's control of their personhood, control of their finances, and control of their job market, or at least like happiness and gratification of growing in that job market. So we're not necessarily talking about directly like a harm of physical attack coming to you in that sense of safety, or like they need a house that has locks on it. We're talking about safety in the sense that like you have an apartment and your lease is up, and now you have to find a new apartment, and there's very little housing in your environment. Like, this is a thing that happens in the Los Angeles, California area. Housing is so tremendously terrible there, like getting housing and building housing, that people have an immense safety concern about their living situation remaining sustainable when their lease is up, because there may not be another apartment. They may have to move really far away from where they live. A whole life may change because of one incident. And in the education about safety and needs being met, they do highlight that changes, big changes in life, divorces, job changes, changes of housing, is going to send people into a cycle of immediate attention to those safety needs being met. Deficiency needs and basic needs get met immediately. So when people have big life changes, you can expect for them to have an increase in anxiety to deal with that change, because their basic need is causing them to have a flight or flight safety response mechanism. So in that, just anecdotally, I'll tell you guys that every year about I change apartments or living situation. I don't know why I haven't lived somewhere for more than a year. I think that always either financially I'm doing better than I was the last year, or I'm moving location. I was in the military for quite some time, and they would move us duty stations a lot. So as an adult, also like changing relationships, like living with someone and then breaking up with them. So I've had changes in my housing situations so often that almost yearly I can now notice the ramp up in anxiety several months before having to move. And the people who were with me last year noticed a definite decrease in work output, in happiness, in ability to sleep, ability to plan the future, not knowing where I was going to live. Although I knew I had the money to move somewhere, although I had a pretty good positive outlook for the future, like once I get the housing situation dealt with, I'll be able to blah blah blah. It wasn't like, oh, the future is terrible. But that inability to know for certain the next month where I was going to be caused massive amounts of anxiety that impacted my behavior and functionality with people in my life. So it's not to say like it's a direct threat or I'm going to be homeless, or, you know, not like that sense of safety. Just safety of being able to maintain a schedule. Safety of able to maintain the life or know for certain what's going to happen tomorrow. And that's the funny thing, right? Is that we don't know ever what's going to happen tomorrow. But having the semblance of control and the thought that you have ownership over the things that happen in your life give people the ability to traverse through day to day without the immediate consciousness of like how much a need is fragile, right? Because like we just noticed this week that an apartment building in Miami, Florida half of it crumbled to the ground out of nowhere, and those people lost, some people lost their lives, and many people have lost their housing situations, their entire savings. We're currently in the middle of a pandemic, and living situation is sometimes the only thing that people have. And now immediately, with no cause, no ability to change that, people are unstably housed. But that's an indication that you can't ever for sure control the future, that you need to build up enough tools of happiness in your life and build up enough coping mechanisms that anything that life throws at you, you're able to easily meet those needs and then move on or move back to self-actualization. So although for me, I have months or weeks out until I have to move, I still feel it all the time. I still feel the housing need. And when I hear my other friends talk about housing needs, that they can't move places, and they even have the down payment, they have the bank and the work history and everything, and it's like people will feel anxiety because they don't have any control or ability to move toward a greater space in life. So when we're talking about the hierarchy of needs, we're talking about Maslow's theory of motivation. And Maslow purports that you're motivated to change, you're motivated to make action when you have an unmet need. So I would encourage everyone to look at Maslow's pyramid of needs and to sit with yourself for a second and see where on that pyramid you are struggling, where you think personally, where you do an inventory of yourself that lets you know where we're struggling. And I think in that exercise, it will help us to get to a sense of self-awareness. And self-awareness is one of the things that we're lacking most in society. We've already covered people lacking self-awareness of what their purpose is in life. That I think discerning specifically where on the needs you are, then you can start to highlight what things that you most can work on, or specifically what portions of the different needs you see that you have like worked through already, and can have like some contributing conversation to add for other people who are maybe currently stuck in that. And then also like some really good questions about where this need that you're currently struggling with can be fulfilled. Because like we've said several times, once you meet a need, you move on to another need. But because life is ever changing, you can always come back around to those new needs. Like this apartment building in Miami, some of those people that live there may have been self-actualized, and they have now just immediately found themselves with a deficiency need of housing. And they may be self-actualized, and now they have anxiety because their housing situation is completely distraught. So, I just want to reiterate that safety needs in today's world can manifest themselves as job security. So maintaining a job, and a job that you're fulfilled with, that you're happy with, that every day you wake up and feel like gets you to a place of self-actualization. Doing a thing that makes money but also makes sense because you're happy doing it. So savings accounts, insurance policies, financial security, health and well-being. I think another thing that we can put on there is credit, or like, what is it called, your credit score, things like that, like ability to be looked at as trustworthy so that you're able to transcend any type of like hardships that life throws at you. So, and it said, when we make decisions about our lives, we try our best to ensure our own safety. So any decision that you're making is gonna be in an attempt for you to be, one, most comfortable. We talk about that a lot too, that people, one of the core components of human existence is comfortableness. That humans will try, without a shadow of a doubt, to have their existence be comfortable. And this reiterates that point, that you will do everything that leads to more safety for yourself. You will make decisions that lead to more safety. And a portion of this that's like really important, that we really need to talk about, because I think that some people, in that sense of self-awareness, the thing that we're pushing for most, research suggests that over 95% of our behavior is unconsciously motivated. This statistic speaks to the importance of getting to know your primitive negative emotions. So 95% of your behavior is unconsciously motivated. So you don't even know why you're doing things. You don't even understand sometimes why you're having an action. And how do you know if you have an unmet basic need? So here's a simple test. If you can't just sit down and quote unquote be, if you feel the need to consistently be doing something or consuming something, whether that be food, media, drugs, work, your basic needs aren't met. Driven by fear because we don't feel accepted, loved, or respected, we often behave irrationally and impulsively in our attempt to resolve an unmet need. And generally speaking, the motivation behind our irrational behavior exists outside of our awareness. That 95% of our behavior is motivated by unconscious motivation. That is when something threatens our physiological safety, social or esteem needs, we don't see why we're behaving as we do. So if you are having a security and a safety need, you most likely will have behavior that's unconsciously motivated. You won't know why you're doing it, and that's why it is really important for you to meet your basic needs. And when we're saying it's unconsciously motivated, because if you have fear and you have a safety need, then your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala are firing up and stopping you from using logical processing. Okay? So do we get it? Do we understand? Okay. So what happens with stress in your body? What happens when you have a basic need? What happens when security or safety is unmet for you? So long-term anxiety and panic attacks can cause your brain to release stress hormones on a regular basis. This can increase the frequency or symptoms such as headaches, dizziness, and depression. When you feel anxious and stressed, your blood your brain floods your nervous system with hormones and chemicals designed to help you respond to a threat. Adrenaline and cortisol are two of the examples. So when you feel anxiety and stress, like we said before, that continued inability to have your needs met will make you focus hyper on those needs and not move toward self-actualization, not move toward benefiting society and helping other peoples. You will be so focused on the primitive negative emotions that come from your prefrontal cortex of fight or flight. You'll be so focused on that you're gonna have negative consequences on your body. While helpful for the occasional high stress event, long-term exposure to stress hormones can be more harmful to your physical health in the long run. For example, long-term exposure to cortisol can contribute to weight gain. So I think a lot of times when you go to the doctor, they ask, have you gained or lost weight unexpectedly? And maybe sometimes you don't even know, like maybe you're not overeating or haven't changed, things in your body, but if you're hyper stressed, you're having these chemicals be released and you have no cognitive awareness of them. So, anxiety disorders can cause rapid heart rate, palpitations, and chest pain. You may also be at an increased risk of high blood pressure and heart disease. So it's just really taking an entire toll on your body. I mean, like, my heart hurts when I'm stressed out, so I can imagine, like, your heart hurts. There are things that are called somatic symptoms. In mental health, we talk about somatic symptoms a lot. And what that is a physical manifestation of an emotional trigger. So sometimes people are stressed and their head will hurt. Their stomach will hurt. Sometimes people feel guilty and their stomach hurts. Sometimes people feel depressed and they feel lethargic or just like really heavy. A lot of the times when people go to the doctor, they may be experiencing a somatic symptom of a psychological problem, and this indicates that there is a chemical reason why people are having somatic symptoms, that they're comorbid, that it happens concurrently at the same time or at a higher rate with each other. So, this anxiety is affecting almost like your entire body. Like, anxiety also affects your excretory and digestive systems. You may have stomach aches, nausea, diarrhea, and other digestive issues. Loss of appetite can also occur. In the short term, this increases your pulse and breathing rate so your brain can get more oxygen. This prepares you to respond appropriately to an intense situation. Your immune system may even get a brief boost. With occasional stress, your body returns to normal functioning when the stress passes. So like we said before, stress can help you. If there is an immediate danger, like a real life danger, your fight or flight mechanism needs to be on point. You need to be stressed out so that your body can act. And it's, like we said, it's beneficial for you in the sense that it can boost your immune system. It can boost your awareness. It can make you able to respond appropriately to intense situations. But long term, situations should not be that intense. That's how humans die. So you shouldn't have long-term intense situations where basic needs are going unmet. And yesterday when we did the introduction to this happiness, we talked about a community of people who had no word for poverty, and their closest semblance to poverty was without family, because in their community and their society, someone being so totally without resources and totally without a connection and anchor in the world is completely unheard of. And if you think about these base needs being met, people with family and those resources in the world tend to have their base needs met more readily, or a different cognitive outlook on those needs. Meaning, like, some people, if they don't have tons of money, their society believes that they don't need tons of money, and they find happiness and fulfillment and self-actualization through that. But people who go without resources is not really like natural to human evolution and evolvement. Like, most humans have been communal. Most humans have had family. So in today's day and age, where we broke out into the nuclear family, where that big communal existence was down to me and mine and just the small few members of directly genetically related people, led to a lot of dismantling of people's community resources and ability to have their basic needs met upon fruition. Like, they came into the world and are without needs being met because they have such a small anchoring of people around them. Anxiety causes rapid shallow breathing. If you have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, you may be at an increased risk of hospitalization for anxiety-related complications. So anxiety can also make asthma symptoms worse. All in all, anxiety disorders can cause symptoms including headaches, muscle tension, insomnia, depression, and social isolation. So all of these things, if someone is feeling sick or someone is feeling in pain, then we go back to the very, very beginning, the very basic needs of physiological. The first need that all people have to transcend is physiological needs: food, sleep, shelter, and then physical needs of safety. But if your physiological need is not being met because now you're so stressed out that your body is in pain and you're having insomnia and depressed, you have now just gone back to your physiological need needing to be met. And like we said before, people who need sleep and who are sick and need sleep cannot focus on becoming their best whole selves, cannot focus on awareness and helping the greater society. When you're in a period of transition, your security needs easily get triggered. Safety implies a certain degree of control. When your survival is threatened, you feel out of control. That's why I stressed before that it's not necessarily a direct threat of physical danger, a direct need for like physical safety. This is a safety in a sense of control, of your ability to predict or maneuver through situations, and to have that toolkit of skills that you know for a fact that you can get to the other side. When I was younger, I always heard adults talk about in your 30s you get a certain sense of confidence because you've been through so much, life has thrown so much hardship at you, and in your 30s you have gone through so many experiences that now you know for an under no uncertain term that you're going to survive. In your 20s, like, life is hard and throwing things at you, and you become an adult when you're no longer dependent on your family and your parents. You are now being shown life's hardships, and you have no track record of success. And that causes a lot of anxiety. So people, when you have more examples of successes and more things in your toolkit that you for sure know will help you transcend through difficult situations, you get a certain level of confidence, you get a certain level of fighting off anxiety and ability to really really see your strengths and really see how effective you're dealing with life. Naturally, you'll want to get a grip on things if your survival is threatened. Routines help you do that, but when you're moving out of work or getting a divorce, for example, you may feel unsafe. So maintaining routines is one way in which people can most help to fulfill their basic needs, like getting a specific routine in place and having a sense of predictability is one way in which you can help meet your basic needs, even if you are in a place that's like tremendously struggling. If it's financially, or you can't provide your like social needs or your emotional needs, hopefully with the ability to create a schedule, you will feel more safety. Hopefully with a schedule, you will feel less threatened. Your day-to-day predictable life. And in that sense, you know, when something happens, that routine, the ability to maintain a peaceful routine and a successful routine, if that routine is threatened, the anxiety will be there to get the routine back on track. So you have to be aware that starting something and getting something that you love will make you want to protect that thing that you love versus not ever having it in the first place. So although a routine may help you, if you're in a place in your life that you cannot get to be able to protect that routine efficiently, it may do more harm than good. So one way that you can impact your safety is for a person to fully develop as a human being. And for a person to fully develop as a human being, there must be some freedom from fear of personal attacks or freedom from fear of changing of safety. So I wanted to read this one thing with you guys because I thought that this was really important. Where is it? I thought that I had done it. Okay, maybe I haven't done it. I'll open this because I really want to read this with you guys. So I'll open a window capture so that we can get this quote. Okay, here we go. I just wanted to make sure I could pull this up so that you guys can stay along with me because it might be a lot. So it says, we are born with the inalienable emotion. Let me start over. We are born with inalienable emotional needs for love, safety, acceptance, freedom, attention, validations of our feelings, and physical holding. Healthy identity is based on the fulfillment of these needs. These needs are felt and remembered cellularly throughout our lives, though we may not always be intellectually aware of them. They are originally experienced in a survival context of dependency. We may still feel them as adults, that our very survival is based on finding someone to fulfill our basic needs. But early primal needs can be fulfilled fully only in childhood, since only then were we fully dependent. In adulthood, the needs can be fulfilled only flexibly or partially, since we are interdependent and our needs are no longer connected to survival. For most of our inalienable emotional needs were not met sufficiently in childhood, and as adults, we are still trying to meet these basic needs externally. but we can't meet them externally, or rather, we can, but only flexibly or partially. Our problem is not that as children our needs were unmet, but that as adults they are still unmourned. So I'll read that again for you guys because I thought this was really important. Our problem is not that as children our needs were unmet, but that as adults they are still unmourned. The hurt, bereft, betrayed child is still inside of us, wanting to cry for what he missed and wanting thereby to let go of the pain and the stressful present neediness he feels in relationships. In fact, neediness itself tells us nothing about how much we need from others. It tells us how much we need to grieve the irrevocably barren past and evoke our own inner sources of nurturance. I think that's very important for all of us to understand. That neediness itself tells us nothing about how much we need from others. It tells us how much we need to grieve the irrevocably barren past and evoke our own inner sources of nurturance. So ultimately, it's a child part within us driven by these basic needs. And until we grieve and come to terms with the loss this child experienced, we cannot root ourselves in our adult part and assess our full potential. I thought this was really important to talk about, and hopefully this can impact some people the way that it impacted me, because I really, from reading that, I got an understanding that because you were a child and you were dependent, you had things that really embedded you for your survival instinct, because your survival was based on dependency. Versus now as an adult, you're not dependent upon anything but the society and world at large. And that's why when we started this conversation and episode about safety needs, we made sure to stress that your basic needs can only be fulfilled by society. Your basic needs cannot be fulfilled intrinsically by the individual. And this kind of explains why. That if when you were a child, things went unmet in your life, where your safety was a concern and a need that was not attended to, if love and affection, if respect and ability to be heard or attended to, if nurturance was a thing that you went without as a child, those are things that you will not wholeheartedly be able to get as an adult through other people. You'll partially be able to get it. You will somewhat be able to heal the things that have happened in your past to become self-actualized. But once you realize that things are all on you now and that dependence is no longer a part of your survivability, fixing dependence is almost impossible. So with that being said, hopefully people are able to accurately work on the things that they see on Maslow's hierarchy and these day-to-day interactions that we're going to do. Hopefully, slowly but surely, they can build your happiness back up. Or maintain your happiness that you have right now. Or show other people where they could be most happy. Because like we've said, people who become self-actualized want that for other people. When you go through a journey of discovery and self-acceptance and you get to a place of happiness and peace, you realize how harmed the world around you is and how hard it is for you to maintain your own peace when you don't see other people at peace. And for me, happiness has been a really long journey. I don't know if I ever worked on my happiness in a way that I feel like with this education shows me how much I have needed to work on it. I can see in these articles and these readings that attention is a thing that so many adults in my life have gone without, and they're seeking it from me and other people, whether that be online, whether that be inappropriately in person. Like, people are trying to meet their needs and get their fulfillment from other people instead of working on themselves. And one example as a streamer that I notice a lot, or as a content creator, is that instead of making their own content, instead of finding a passion or thing that is fulfilling to that individual, they will try to alter the content that I'm making or make the things that I'm doing about them. And a lot of the times I talk to people about being the change that you need to see in the world. And much like for me, how I've had to take this step and go along this journey of being the change that I want to see, because I don't believe that it will ever get there if I don't actively do it. I think that a lot of other people are struggling to get their base needs met, get the attention that they want, or garner the respect or give the respect that they feel like is owed to them and that they deserve, and thus try to get it from other people and harm their general community at large, and also move through life without being self-actualized or fulfilling any sense of purpose or finding something that they most want to focus their time on. So, in wrapping up this discussion about safety and moving on, tomorrow we're going to do love and belonging, so friendships and family and sexual intimacy. So tomorrow is love and belonging, and then after that is going to be self-esteem. So once you belong to a group, having self-esteem. So this love and belonging is going to be the first need that we're going to do that's going to be outside of the deficiency needs. We're going to look at that as a growth need. So it's not to say that you will have finished all of your deficiency needs. It will not to say that you have gotten all the security or control or preparedness or ability to see the future. But hopefully it brings some attention to this for you. Hopefully this is a portion of your happiness that you can work on most, because like a lot of the times, very basic physiological needs, hopefully the government is covering if you can't cover yourself, like housing, food, those like basic physiological needs. But these physical security needs, safety needs are some of the ones that we talk about least, and the ability to plan for the future, prepare for the future, and have a really good solid stakehold in the life that you want to live, and how little we talk about how that causes anxiety. Because if someone has an apartment and has money, then we don't want to hear about how they may be homeless, because that's quote unquote never gonna happen. But the anxiety is real. The negative detrimental impact on the body is real. The thing that people feel is real. So that's the thing that I wanted to attend to today, to talk about. And hopefully The idea of building a routine will give you empowerment to see the life that you're actually living and have some control over that. So I'll open it up for discussion so that we can have a little bit of engagement. So I'll just go through really quick and read the chat. Got through all my notes. I'm gonna take my notes from today and I'll put them up on the fairlyoften.com blog. So you can just look for episode 2 show notes. Hopefully I can find somebody soon to do closed captions so that these episodes will have captions so people in other languages can watch and contribute. And if anything from the show was stuck out to you, please make a clip or let me know and I will try to make a clip. I don't call it selfish, I call it self-preservation. I understand what you're saying, but I think anxiety comes from your perception of your world because it starts with the mind, which you can control if you know how. I've seen that plenty of times. Well, hello, thank you for joining. Well, having a job is never guaranteed, especially with it being in the boss's hands, and that anytime he or she can change your situation. And I think that that's the thing about the job is not necessarily having a job, because if you're alive today, more than likely you have some type of financial income to support yourself, right? Like it's very hard to exist without a job, but that fulfilling, that putting 8 hours in to where you're doing something that means something to you, that matters to you, like that part of it. Stress and anxiety cause a chemical imbalance in your body, obviously bad long term. You're helping me realize a lot right now. I didn't know you were so intuitive. Oh, thank you so much for coming. If this helped you and you guys can give me a thumbs up on it, I would really appreciate the thumbs up. This is a very new YouTube channel because I want this to just be the happiness blog, happiness podcast. So I'm going to make a different start screen for the topic of the day. So like the safety one, all the safety and security videos are going to have the same thumbnail so that you're going to know it's happiness, but you can easily find the episodes. And I'll try to make playlists because although there's a podcast playlist, I'll make safety playlists because there'll be 12 episodes about safety, 12 episodes about physiological needs, 12 episodes about love and belonging. So I would love the thumbs up. I would love if you guys could share this on your social media. This podcast is recorded on anchor.fm/fairlyoften, and fairlyoften.com is the blog. So anything that I talk about is going to go up in the Discord, and then specifically I'll make blog posts for you guys. I might run a little bit behind on the lesson plans, so the videos will go live every day, Saturday through Wednesday at 4 p.m. We're going to be live, meet in our seat. But the transcript and the actual like technical work behind it and getting blog posts up and links and, you know, references and stuff so that you guys are empowered. Because I want you to, if reading is easier for you, I want you to be able to read it, which is why the blog posts are going to come. And if reading is easier or English is not the native language, then I want the closed captions so that other people can effectively engage on their happiness. Because if we get self-fulfilled, we want everybody else to be self-fulfilled. And this is a journey I've never, ever invested time coherently, consciously, purposefully into happiness, purposely into being self-fulfilled. So, if I get there eventually, I want y'all to get there. I believe us as the human species are meant to have a village mentality, which is modern day family, and without it you're lacking. I would say that was true at a time, but now I'm seeing more people 30-year-old and up making more mistakes than the younger people, and I believe that social media doing. Yeah. Mommy says, good job. Thank you, bro. What happened when you go from a place of self-actualization back to fight or flight mode and anxiety? So that's a very great question because...
I don't have any information about that.
That's a really good question because Maslow talks about this as not a perfect triangle, of not necessarily a hierarchy that moves upward consistently at all times. If you go and do any reading about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they talk about, because life is ever changing, humans are going through transitions at all periods of time, that you will inevitably go to different places of this pyramid at different portions of your time. You will reach self-esteem and love and then have a physiological need. I mean, we're always getting physiological needs. Like, if you go without sleep, you can get to love, respect, self-esteem, security, and then you go without sleep for 36 hours, and I best believe that that physiological need is going to take forefront and precedent. Me, Lord, do I get hangry. I am angry because I'm hungry, and I know you guys know so many people that personality starts to waver if they get hungry and angry, and that's an indication that your physiological need is being unmet, and you will go directly to that physiological need to have that fulfilled. So don't think that because it's in the shape of a pyramid that you always got to be moving upwards. Mark Manson said that happiness, complete and 100% total ecstasy with existence, does not lead to a fruitful life for people or bring evolution to humanity, because people who have problems are people who are innovative and engineering and create change. If you don't have a problem, you don't have to be engineering. If you don't have a problem, you don't have to be innovative. You don't have to think of a way to solve anything if you're content. So don't think that because this is a triangle that you have to be like set in stone. Like, I hit the mark, I'm doing good, and oh God, I'm falling backwards. You know, that's why we said when someone gets divorced, their safety and security is changing, because you may have had your physiological needs met, your safety needs met, your love and esteem, your respect met. You may have got to self-actualize, and your spouse and your partner was not on that train with you at all. They did not do the thing, and now you're getting a divorce. And so now your routine is messed up, your anxiety is through the roof. The goal here, the goal of this show, of this podcast, is not to get happy. The goal is to assess happiness, have awareness of where your life is, to be grateful for your existence, and to give you tools to help you reach self-actualization so that you can live a good life. Good is not always indication of happy, okay? Like, it's not always an indication of contentedness, of being at peace. So our goal here is not to tell you that if you're unhappy, you're wrong. You're never wrong for who you are. Our goal here is to give you skills so that you can always feel right. Capiche? Great job. What can you do to get back to self-actualization? Well, to have your needs met. To get back to self-actualization, you move back through the list of needs of trying to get them met so that you can get back to a place of contentedness and happiness. To be working on your life goal. I think one thing that you, other than the homework of sitting down and looking on this chart of where you are at in self-actualization, other than, hey, look at this pyramid and see where you are and see what you most right now before any awareness, before any work, where you right now think that you're need the most work on. I think the other thing that I want you to do as a form of homework is to sit down and really assess what your purpose in life is. Really sit there. Because for me, when I'm obsessed with death and dying. I have my master's in social work and specifically in older adults and aging. So my concentration is on gerontology. And I worked in hospice for years, and the concept of death is fascinating to me, and I'm rather obsessed with it. And in that obsession of death comes the idea of legacy, and comes the idea of fulfillment, of self-actualization, of what does living really mean? Because death is real and is coming for us all. So what does life, what does purpose, what does it all mean to be here? I'm very rarely concerned about the afterlife because that seems so existential to me. That seems so unable to get to a specific answer. But in death, you ask the question of what is life and what is living, and what does your living mean? What purpose do you have here in this world? And with that, I assessed a long time ago what needs were being unmet for me. And one need that I constantly always go back to is wanting a better parental relationship, wanting to have nurturing and caring in the world. I have a very specific situation with my parents. My dad is incarcerated and has been incarcerated for much of my life, and my mom was an active drug addict for 20 plus years. So that nurturing and caring and balance of needs being met as a child, for me, I realized was not there. That I very much went without those. And because I want those in the world so badly, I have to be the person who's going to put those out. Because like we assessed in this episode today, there's no way to fulfill those because you're not dependent anymore. So you can't wholeheartedly 100% fulfill those needs. You can tactically fill those needs. You can partially fill those needs. But that nurturing and caring and ability to have a relationship and where respect and adoration and attendance is there is not something that I'll be able to get. I can give that to other people, and in the sense of giving that to other people, I'll be able to partially heal that need that went unmet and then reach self-actualization. So hopefully for a lot of you, you sit there and assess. You figure out what part of life you're at, where your needs, and then you assess what your actual purpose is. Hopefully, you know? And also, I see in your chat, you say, so is it all mindset? No, 100% not. Physiological needs, like eating and sleep, is not a mindset thing. Sometimes you need to eat or you need to sleep, for sure. There is, some evidence of people who go without specific needs being met for long periods of time. There are yogis and there, Gandhi. People go through journeys of long periods of time with no food, long periods of time with no sleep. an attempt to reach a cerebral mindset place through abstinence of physiological needs being met. So it's not to say like 100% you can't get to self-actualization because a physiological need is not being met, and that it's mindset. There are specific people on specific journeys with specific skills and abilities that may not speak to everybody, but most of the time a physiological need is going to be at the forefront of a person's mind before anything else takes precedent. So I did hear one time that sleep is one of the main causes of death in the world. Like lack of sleep, lack of clean water. We can go into that in a later episode about securing physiological needs. But clean water is one of the biggest lacking resources in the world. So many people die from diarrhea, from dirty water, or from dehydration. It's insane. Clean water it's for us here in America, we're very privileged and spoiled to have a tremendous amount of our basic needs met by society, whereas other people, clean water is not a thing that's generally accessible to them. So we can talk about other needs being met and stuff, but I hope that this episode helped you guys. Like I've always said, the Discord is open. I will probably make a Clubhouse room and open that for these discussions so that people can come in and listen and talk and contribute to the conversation in that way. But I appreciate you guys for being here. We're at our time limit, so hopefully tomorrow you guys will want to call in and maybe have a discussion, bring your point. I really want to give you guys that last half hour of the show for these type of things, comments and questions from the chat, input from the chat, and hopefully some call-ins. Today's only episode 2, so I get it, but we're going to be here for 12 weeks, 5 days a week, Saturday through Wednesday. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, comment, come back. Love yourselves and love each other. I'll see you tomorrow.